This is Sinjar city, or what remains of it. Before its occupation by ISIL militants in the summer of 2014, Sinjar was one of the oldest cities in the ancient Middle East. It was one of the richest and most diverse in religions, cultures, and ethnicities. Here, the Yazidis have coexisted with the Arab Kurds and Christians for thousands of years. But now, a year after its liberation, Sinjar is still deserted, and its inhabitants scattered amongst hundreds of IDP camps in the north of Iraq. Nobody's here but a few soldiers who defend the city, and a few children who collect nails and debris to use them to build temporary shelters on Mount Sinjar before winter comes.
آی خود مالی ما خراب کنو خود کچ کوچینین ما هم برنو خود سیپین ما هم کشتنو تدوین هاش مشنگالی بوچی ابی آوا و ابی کهربا و ابی خورا و بی خورنا نتخدور کو ن فيكي كتيده او تشتغنينا.
نسبة الخراب والدمار وصل إلى أكثر من 70%. عدم رجوع الأهالي إلى سنجار هو بسبب الدمار الذي طال كل البنى التحتية وبيوت الأهالي.
Thousands of homes, hundreds of schools, health centers, sports facilities and shops have completely disappeared in the midst of these ruins. Sinjar is not the only city that has been totally destroyed. Also, Ramadi was subject to large-scale devastation. Almost half of it disappeared under the ruins. ISIL was keen on destroying the cities they occupied so as to make them unfit for human life. ISIL destroyed most of the infrastructure of al-Ramadi. More than 20 bridges were largely or completely damaged. The two largest power stations were demolished, along with most of the power supply network of the neighborhoods. Most of the water filtering plants and the internal pipe network were ruined. The sewage mixed with the potable water threatens the lives of thousands of people who are now at risk of severe health and environmental consequences. Al-Ramadi General Hospital is out of service due to the damage inflicted on its ground floor and the destruction of its higher floors, where the main wards and 13 operation rooms are located, including the only cancer therapy center in the city. The educational facilities of Ramadi city are also not operational. The buildings of Al-Anbar University were largely destroyed, including most of the scientific and humanities colleges, as well as the scientific laboratories and research centers. About 190 primary and secondary schools were partially or completely damaged. The school year has already started in all cities of Iraq, but not yet in Ramadi. School children and university students may not go to classes until next year. All the cities that have been occupied by ISIL have been devastated, as the city of Fallujah, whose bridges have been destroyed, as well as much of its infrastructure. The same applies to Tikrit, whose bridges were damaged, and many of its districts were systematically mined. In Beji, ISIL wrecked large parts of the city, destroying thousands of houses, markets, and bridges, as well as the biggest oil refinery in the country. The terrorist attacks that took place in Baghdad have affected people and also how they live public spaces in the city, as with the explosion that took place in Karada, when about 290 civilians were killed and more were injured, just a few days before the celebration of Eid.
The humanitarian crisis in Iraq is one of the largest, most complex, and most volatile in the world. Right now, more than 10 million Iraqi civilians need some form of humanitarian assistance. The cost to Iraq has been enormous. There are 3.5 million Iraqis who have been displaced from their homes. All of these families need assistance. Currently, they're living in more than 3,000 communities across the country.
Most of Iraqi internally displaced are still living in camps, which are spread in several areas of the country, facing extremely difficult circumstances. Everybody is waiting for the reconstruction of their cities destroyed by ISIL in order to return, regardless of the circumstances awaiting them.
البيت سألت عنه، البيوت كلها محرقة. عائلتنا متكونة من 16 نفر، راح نرجع كليتنا حتى لو نقعد جوا نخلة نقول إن نرضى بأمر الواقع وها هي يا أخي.
Thousands of those who made their way back to their homes had no option but to return because of the difficult life in those camps. Most of them found their properties ruined, nothing left but ruins.
جيت بوقتها أول جاي عليه والله انصدمت صدمة الله يعلم. دمار دمار، يعني مو تقول الرمادي حيل دمار. اللي عنده إمكانية يسوي بيت، واللي ما عنده إمكانية حاهي، يعني نقول نستحمد الله ونشكره.
عشنا بيه عمر هذا البيت. أول ما طبهم هنا إحنا طلعنا من هذا البيت، ظلينا إين ما قالوا من الأوضاع هدت. نزلنا من السيارة لقينا البيت واقع على القاع، نريد نفوت ردنا نقعد بهذا المخزن. فتنا نقعد فيه ما قدرنا، يعني عيشتنا صارت صعبة.
لقد تعرض العراق إلى هجمة شرسة كلفت كثيراً، سواء في تدمير البنى التحتية التي زادت كلفتها على 35 مليار دولار، أو بالتدمير الكامل لعشرات الآلاف من الوحدات السكنية. وعلى الرغم من الضائقة المالية التي يمر بها العراق، إلا أن هناك خططاً كفيلة بإعادة الإعمار.
The work will be started after determining the scale of destruction in a realistic way, specifying the required projects, and with their demands of machinery, equipment, and materials.
In all of the cities where Daesh was present, nothing is as it was before in these locations. And this is why it's so important that the new urban agenda, which is being endorsed at Habitat 3 at the Global Conference, is so important. Iraq is a country where this new agenda needs to be implemented as a matter of urgency.
كنا نصد عن العالم بأسره هذه الموجات البغيضة والتي حاربت الإنسان والأرض، ولذلك نتطلع إلى دعم دولي يتناسب وتضحيات العراق في هذه المرحلة.
Iraqis have fought ISIL on behalf of the world and will continue to do so until they're ousted from the country. However, despite all the violence and urban destruction caused by terrorism, Iraq is a country which has rebuilt itself several times throughout its history and will do it again.